Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's live webcast, The Strategic Account Management Playbook Brought to Life. I'd like to now turn it over to our presenter for this morning, Tim Brayman, who has 20 years experience in helping global enterprises better manage and optimize their strategic account growth, co-creation, and value to their clients. With that, I'll give you Tim.
Good morning or good afternoon, as the case may be, folks. And so we've got 30 minutes to get through this particular presentation. If you've joined any of my webcasts in the past, you'll know we're going to go pretty fast. So strap in and here we go. The point of view that I'm going to bring to this today is not only just my role as head of corporate strategy here at Revigi, but the fact that I was a strategic account manager managing global accounts for quite a few years. And so I'm going to bring a little bit of the scar tissue that I bear into our discussion today. Now, just as a reminder, today is talking about the Strategic Account Management Association's best practice process in strategic account management. And just as a quick reminder to everybody, this is the definition from SAMA of what strategic account management means. And a couple of things that I'm going to point out here as we go through this. One is complex organizations, and then mutually beneficial to our clients, with specific outcomes of growth in revenue, loyalty, and margins, right? So it's all about the outcomes when you're the strategic or key account manager, and that's what we want to be focused on as we go through the presentation today. Now, the flow for the presentation is going to be a short PowerPoint, then I'm actually going to do a live demonstration, and then we'll come back at the tail end for about 5 or 10 minutes worth of questions and some answers. Now, as we go through this particular process and start talking about the SAMA-SAM process, the folks at SAMA have built a truly end-to-end process, right, that begins with the understanding of your customer, perhaps the most key element of the process. Now, this best practice process progresses forward from understanding your customer's priorities and the people involved, all the way through to delivering the value and managing the overall relationship and outcomes. But the core concept that SAMA preaches and that we agree with wholeheartedly is the co-creation of value, right? It's not selling a solution or a product to the customer, but it's actually working with the customer to come up with joint collaborative solutions, right, to deliver specific measurable business value to your end customers. And I love the terminology in the upper right corner of this slide that says the SAM as the process leader of strategic customer value. Because that's another thing that we don't see often enough today, is the ability to enable or equip the SAM to truly be a leader in the process. So the process itself, you're seeing the high-level process here, major stages in this particular process. There is a next level down of detail. So this is not just a theoretical outline, but it's actually a pragmatic method and process to drive your success. Right? So there's tremendous detail here. SAMA and some of the leading training vendors and best practice vendors out there around skills development and process design, have come together, and there's learnings around these particular specific elements. And this is a great process for actually driving those outcomes we're talking about. But I'm going to pose a thought question to you. You don't have to answer this other than in your head. How do you take something like this and actually make it operational, right? And not just make it operational, but make it operational in the context of our strategic or key account management teams. Because if you look at the teams themselves, right, their world is complex. So, from our perspective, we got the key account manager. They're the orchestrator, right, of the overall process of engaging with the strategic account. But if you think about what they're really supposed to be doing, they're actually supposed to be orchestrating all the moving parts of your organization: executive management, sales, product, technology, services, marketing, bringing together a cross-functional team to truly collaborate around creating value for your clients, right? That's complex. But then let's take it that next step further, because a strategic account is not one person or one building, right? Your strategic accounts are, in general, spread out all across the world. And not only are your teams in your organization probably divided up by regions, your customer, your clients probably divided up by region. There's an enormous amount of complexity to this process, right? And so think about it in terms of your customer. Visualize what it is you have to sell. So interestingly enough, 2 of our customers actually have the same target account as a key customer, Tyson Foods. Now, Tyson Foods is a global producer of food, chickens, bacon, beef, all kinds of different things, right? Things that I personally like to eat, especially the bacon part. Now, what you see from this is that's a lot of different business units. And they've got different, Tyson has 3 business units, but all around the world, they've got those 3 separate business units. And our customers who regard Tyson as a key account, they actually have multiple business units selling multiple products into each of those business units. So an enormous level of complexity. If you are a key account manager or a strategic account manager, there are very few people in your organization who recognize and understand the complexity of your job and how difficult it is to be the captain of this ship and get it to go in the right direction. So let's take a look at the common tools that most of our key account managers are given to manage this overall process, right? Typically, and according to CSO Insight's most recent survey, 48% of companies are still attempting to manage their key accounts through Excel or PowerPoint-based key account plans, right? Even though that's very 1990s, that's still the vast majority of companies, right? But then, we've also started to see a tremendous upsurge in CRM. So according to CSO Insights, about 30% of you on the phone, 30% of companies around the world are trying to manage their strategic or key accounts using an application, some extensions into their CRM. Now, I happen to be showing Salesforce.com, but this applies to any CRM, whether it's SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, or something you've grown. You know, CRM tools are amazing, but they're specifically and fundamentally designed to be that 360-degree view of the customer, which is predominantly historical information. And CRMs are very focused on transactional sales processes. So what you see here is a great repository and storage place for a lot of information. But what we don't see here is how do you collaborate as a team on a multi-year vision or plan for strategically engaging with your customers to create that mutual value. How do you do that within your CRM, given the complexity we discussed? And so frankly, is your key account manager mostly a form filler outer? Are they the chief executive officer filling out forms in your CRM or in Excel or PowerPoint? Or is your key account manager truly the conductor of the orchestra and getting everybody to focus on delivering value to your specific key customers? And so our philosophy is if you follow the SAMA methodology and you truly want to engage with your strategic customers, the tools that you are probably using today are going to leave you with a significant gap in execution, right? There's no way for you to strategically engage with those customers given the kinds of tools that are predominantly in place today. They're simply not fit for purpose. And I think this is fairly well borne out with some research from SAMA themselves, where they ask the question every 2 years as part of an overall survey of how functional or effective is your SAM program. And frankly, only 16% of companies say that it's fully functional and effective, all the way down through the scale here of those that say, our SAM program needs fundamental restructuring. So we think a part of that is that execution gap. We've got best practices. We showed you the best practice process. Let's talk about how we can bring that best practice process to life visually inside or in companionship with a CRM. So I'm going to jump over now to our demonstration, and I'm going to jump into Salesforce.com. And as we've discussed, Salesforce.com is a tremendous repository, as is SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft, of information about customers. But as you can see, and this is a live demonstration, they're predominantly a large form for you to fill out. And what we're really trying to drive is that collaboration amongst the team. So let's take a look at how Revigi visually brings the account planning and management process to life to help you strategically engage. And so I've opened a window into Revigi here, and the first thing that we're going to look at is the strategic account management process. We're going to look at the playbook. So we talked about the SAMA process, right? The stages within the SAMA process, and you see those stages visually brought to life here inside Salesforce.com in this example. And you can guide the team using this process map through the explicit process, right? So they can visually see where they are in their engagement framework with the client and walk through each step. Now, many of you are leveraging your own internal best practices and teaching people SAMA skills. Some of you are leveraging some of the SAMA partners, right? Wouldn't it be nice if you could just in time access best practice tools and advice either from your internal sources or from SAMA? And what we've got here is a simple link to Steve Anderson, who's the CEO of Performance Methods, one of the leading partners in providing skills and best practice processes around key account management. So if we're at the point in time where we're trying to assess customer fit, wouldn't it be nice to be able to jump directly to that particular reinforcement element or whatever element we need? So for example, if we're going to conduct negotiations, wouldn't it be great to get a quick refresher on negotiations, right? Just at the click of a button. So not only do we guide people through the process and reinforce them with best practices, there's key tools that you should use in the process. So a common tool, we're not going to show you every possible tool, but a common tool that people would use would be to understand the decision makers and influencers. So let's take a look at who are the decision makers and the influencers in this particular process. And in general, a visual like this that lays out the key influencers, decision makers, and how they feel about you. Red people don't like us, green people do, yellow people are neutral, the gray people we've never spoken to, is a lot of more information. It's a lot easier to collaborate, and it's a lot easier to coach than simply looking at a list of contacts like you might see in a CRM. Now, this is just one example of a visual tool, but it portrays that particular concept of how do you visually bring your key account planning, your strategic engagement framework to life for executing strategically with your customers. In addition to that, one of the other things that we see is for every customer, even though you want to have a common framework for execution, every customer or client's different. You need to have specific strategies and objectives of how you're going to engage with that particular client. You're probably going to have strategic objectives around things, especially if you follow the SAMA process, around creating value with the customer. So you need to understand what does customer success look like and have goals and specific measurable objectives around customer success. You probably have those same things around relationships. And how are you going to achieve the relationships that you need to better collaborate with this particular client? And then, of course, you're going to have the specific tasks or activities that the team has. So this is our key account manager managing strategic objectives and acting as that orchestrator of the team instead of just the form filler outer person. Actually assigning tasks and having those tasks flow out to the end users around the world and making sure that the key account manager has visibility into, are we achieving the strategic objectives that we have with this client? This is a much better way of managing the process than simply a long list of open activities or closed activities that we may have with a client. Now, in terms of bringing your account management process visually to life, we started with that concept of your framework. We've examined a couple of the visual tools. We're going to step now over to one additional piece, which is the global management visibility, right? Far too often, what we see in account plan, especially when you're using a CRM or an Excel, is that that's the tool that you want the managers to inspect or use for coaching. Well, can you imagine a manager or an executive actually inspecting 20, 30, 40 Excel spreadsheets or 40 or 50 account plans in a CRM? People today don't have that time. They need to manage by exception. So what if your strategic engagement framework had built-in best practice analytics to surface to you where you need to focus and bring you insights into what's working and what isn't? So for example, one of the key things we care about is the revenue that we're generating from our key account or strategic account program. So we want to especially establish targets, revenue targets for our strategic accounts. We also want to bring forth the best practices ideas that we have. We're looking at growth opportunities. How do we grow our strategic accounts? These two data points are commonly coming from the account plans. But then we also need to bring in data from our CRM. What opportunities are in flight? What revenue have we already closed or booked this year? So how do you aggregate that data to give management a visual into how the overall program is, and then just at the click of a button be able to dive down and see explicitly in each particular account how you're performing at each account. Same concept for looking at the overall opportunity size and health of our key accounts. So over on the upper right up here, you see an account health map. And so what we see here is a simple metaphor. Big boxes are big customers. Little boxes are little customers. Green customers, very healthy. Red customers, not so healthy. So let's take a look at this one here that's a biggish red box that's red. Let's dive in and see what kind of insights, if I'm managing by exception, what insights can the software bring me from my CRM and my key account plan and my team's performance against the strategic engagement framework? Well, I see that we've got a health index of 25 for this account. That doesn't sound very good. And if I look at some of the insights, I see that we're not achieving our revenue targets with this particular client. If I scan over here, I see that I'm looking at the relationships that we have. This data is being pulled out of the account plan from that visual map of the key players, decision makers that we looked at a little earlier, and see that, you know what, we have very few relationships at the executive level, and the few that we have are not very strong. Further, and what I think perhaps is one of the most important things is, how are we progressing against our strategic objectives with this particular client? So we've got a series of strategic objectives that we've identified, and I want to take a look at those. And one of the really important ones here is this one called developing C-level relationships. And what I see here is that fully 2/3 of the tasks associated with this particular strategic objective in this particular account are behind. So I might want to drill down and find out, why are these tasks late? But the value proposition we're talking about here is, how do you bring all of that insight across all of those account plans together into a visualization so that you can look at your program holistically around the globe or in specific regions, and how is your strategic account program progressing? And so what we've shown you now is the value of not just automating, but making your strategic engagement process operational, guiding your team, not the key account manager, but the team, through the process of engaging with your customers more strategically, and then giving management deep insight into what's working and what's not. And so at this point, I'm going to leave the demonstration, and I'm going to go into a couple of wrap-up slides, and then we're going to talk and do a little bit of a Q&A process. So we just went from theory to real world. How do you make this process operational and not just automated? And I'm going to pose another thought experiment to you, another thought question. I'm going to show everybody here 2 data items. And I want you to just look at these data items and then try and consume them and interpret them. Here's the first data item. Here's the second data item. Those data items represent the exact same concept. And so when you're trying to drive team-based collaboration, there's a significant benefit to driving to a visual model of collaboration. So some of the key benefits that brain science teach us about this is that while we can consume text fast, we can consume visuals up to 60,000 times faster. And I got to tell you that we're all under the same burden or the same limit of 168. There's only 168 hours in the week. We've got to figure out how to spend them more effectively. And so visualization brings you some very key benefits for team-based collaboration around strategic accounts. First, comprehension, expedited understanding and comprehension of the visuals. So I think we can all agree that that circle was a circle, whereas we may have a slight disagreement about the words. And frankly, many of you have probably been in a meeting where everybody agreed that they knew what they were supposed to be doing and then walked out of the meeting, and 2 days later we all recognized that we're all on a different page. So visuals get everybody on the same page rapidly. They also do something which is crucial. In SAMA, we focus on strategic co-creation of value with the customer. Well, one of the things that visuals do is drive creative thinking. We need to engage your imagination center of your teams to come up with how will we collaborate in a creative value or a creative way to create value for our customers. We need that creativity out of the team. And then the other is retention. Visuals go directly into long-term memory, whereas text and words go into short-term memory. So how do we get everybody on the same page and remembering what the situation is at the client so we don't brief people over and over and over again? And we think that's a crucial element to enabling the SAM teams and bringing the SAMA process visually to life. And in summarization of the overall business value of making this operational versus simply automated in a CRM is we want to take your CAM and we don't want them to be the chief form filler outer, right? We actually want them to be the captain of the team or the conductor of the orchestra. Most times today people are filling out account plans and submitting to a management governance meeting once a month, once a quarter, every 6 months, something like that. We don't see that as very valuable. What we see is that bringing to life that SAMA process and driving that strategic engagement with your customers and actually creating tools, visual tools that are shareable with the client, right? Your clients want you to do things with them and not to them. And quite frankly, most of account plans today in CRM, Excel, or PowerPoint are really designed predominantly for management inspection. What if your account plan was not designed just for collaboration, as we've demonstrated here through visuals, but it was also focused on revenue opportunities and giving you those deep insights into where the revenue opportunities exist, how to harvest them, and how to get your team executing to capture those revenue opportunities. So at this point, we've gone the full 25 minutes that I think I was permitted to talk, and we're going to go into Q&A and see if there's any questions that are outstanding from our studio audience today. All right, so the first question that I've got is, which steps of the SAM process are most critical to prioritize first? So, if we go and actually look at the SAM process, right, one of the things that I think is the most important is actually understanding your customer. Not just who the players are and what their titles are, but what is the customer trying to accomplish? What is their business objective? And how are we actually going to help them be successful? I personally think, that helps you begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey talked about in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What is the customer trying to accomplish? And then we figure out how we're going to help make them successful. Now, there's a question here that says, can this product run standalone, or do I have to integrate it with a CRM? And the answer is, it works both ways, right? So a product like Revigy can work standalone, not integrated with a CRM, or it can work integrated with a CRM itself, such as SAP, Microsoft, Salesforce.com, right, or Oracle. Now, the other thing is that what we're also looking for is to be able to integrate. And so Revigy has pre-built integrations to pull data from your CRM into the account plans. You don't want to rekey any data. You don't want to rekey contacts. You don't want to rekey account or opportunity information. And frankly, a lot of the data that you really care about, things like wallet share, your revenue by product line, those might be in your financial system or a data mart. Revigy is designed to automatically pull that data from those locations. Excuse me. All right, Kimmy, do we have some other questions?
We do.
All right, there's another question that says, if we already have Salesforce.com, how do we get Revigy Enterprise Edition? Well, that's simple enough. We're going to send you a link immediately after this webinar, and you'll just simply respond back to us. And oh, by the way, everybody will get a link that's with a survey that says, did you like this webinar? What other webinars would you like us to present? And an opportunity to schedule a detailed demonstration. Gosh, we got a lot of questions coming in. What are a few key ways to drive adoption for the functionality? I don't know who asked that, but that's a great question. So right now, most key account planning tools got the CAM as the chief form filler outer, right? That's the tenet that I've been putting forward. If you're filling out Excel or PowerPoint, it all revolves on the CAM. So I didn't invent this term, but it takes a village. How do you get your entire cross-functional team, what we refer to as the critical crowd, right? Sales, marketing, product, technology, operations, management, finance. How do you get your entire team engaged with your client around specific measurable objectives? That's crucial to adoption, is really getting the team engaged. If we just put everything on the CAM and make them a form filler outer, you know, solutions like Revity or any kind of key account management tool, they have that propensity to fail. The next question up is a very detailed question. It's an excellent question. It says, we showed the customer health and relationship score indices. What data points comprise those two scores? So I'll give two answers to that. Number one, Revity has a formula that we've built for supporting customer health and relationship related to both of those elements. But I will also tell you that everything we've shown you today is rapidly tailorable to your language and model. So even though we give you an out-of-box experience with those things pre-built, I don't believe one size fits all. So we give you that ability to extend, change, transform, and use your language and your calculations if necessary. Wow, even more questions. Okay. So here's one last question. Do we have enough time for one last question, Kimya?
We do.
Okay. So what type of visuals elements should be shared with the customer? What a great question. So in general, things that you should share with the client include customer health scores, right? Your customer, you should know what and collaborate with them around that customer health score, because you should be getting feedback from them on what's working and what's not. You should also collaborate with the customer about their strategy. Once you've documented visually using some of our tools, and a tool like a strategy map, which I didn't show today, but which is a valuable tool, you should collaborate with the client to say, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, do we understand your business, the outcomes that you're trying to achieve, and the barriers that are getting in the way, so that we can come up with the best ways that we can help you? I would also say that if you have a champion or a mentor or a coach in your account, you should also share relationship maps. Get open and honest feedback, not just about the strength of different relationships, but what relationships are we missing that we really need to have? Now, we're going to send everybody out this survey, and if you hang out, I think the survey will automatically pop up as we shut things down, and we're about to shut down right now. So you'll get a chance to take the survey. We'll email it out to you. I am completely happy to answer further questions. We've actually, the questions are scrolling off the screen, so if you just want to send in questions, I'll respond individually to each of them. And please take this opportunity to either take the account planning maturity assessment tool or schedule an interactive demo with one of our SAM experts. Thank you very much for everyone who woke up with us on the West Coast and in Asia, and for those of you who are headed to the pub in Europe, have yourself a wonderful day.